Hello there, I'm Leo Waldorf for Kit Guru, and this PC here is a Vibox Element X Blue. See if you can guess why it's called blue. Go on then, see if you can guess. Also available with green or red lighting at the same price as the blue, which is a couple of pence under £700, including VAT. 69993. Let me just set GTA 5 a running. Regular benchmark, and I'll rattle through the parts as this plays. Now we're doing this at full HD. Image quality is set fairly high, but not to the max. Reason for that is that the graphics card is an MSI R9 380, 2 gigabytes of memory. GTA 5 will use all the memory you've got, and there are some settings you simply cannot use with 2 gigabytes. You want 3 or 4 gigabytes ideally. R9 380 is slightly better than GTX 960, so we're talking competent gaming without being earth-shaking. Processor is unusual. The processor is an AMD FX 6300, which is a 6-core processor. It's overclocked, it's running at 4.4 gigahertz. I cannot remember when I last saw an AMD powered PC. I use AMD hardware for testing along with Intel stuff, but a PC powered by AMD, rare as a rare thing. Clearly that's been done to cut costs. Apparently this particular processor has a little bit of a curious history to it in that it's based on APU technology where the graphics core or some such has failed during manufacture, and what you end up with is a multi-core processor or some such type. Doesn't really matter. AMD FX, you get a whole array of different numbers of cores, 4, 6 or 8, all sorts of TDPs. This particular processor has a 95 watt TDP, as I look at the dark screen there. What they've done is the stock processor runs at 3.5 gigahertz and turbos to 4.1 gigahertz, and the voltage is between 0.9 and 1.2. I've read reports of these processors being overclocked up to 5 gigahertz. So actually 4.4, simply by feeding it 1.4 volts and then banging up the multiplier a little bit, is actually fairly modest. The cooler is a Thermaltake Water 3.0 Performer, which is absolutely fine. So it's a 120 mil liquid cooler. That's all fine. It's got a suffix C on it, which I'm not entirely clear about. I thought the C referred to a China-only model. Never mind that, let's put that to one side. Memory is 8 gigabytes of fairly average Patriot DDR3 1600. Motherboard MSI 990 FXA GD65, so it is an AM3 Plus processor. We've got a 120 gigabyte Patriot Blast SSD, a 1 terabyte Tosh hard drive to back that up, onboard audio. Interestingly, the case and the power supply are both Vibox branded, so they've presumably been out there to source stuff from somewhere in the East. The case is called a Tactician Blue. Why blue, you wonder? And the power supply is a 600 watt 80 plus certified unit from who knows, not a clue. 64-bit Windows 10. Also, the warranty is quite interesting. It's described as a lifetime evolution warranty. So basically, they send you the system, you get 2 years parts cover, you get lifetime labour. So basically, if you choose, you can have your system upgraded essentially forever. You'll be paying for the parts, but they'll bung the bits in as you want, which is novel to say the least. That is for the original owner, and if you sell the system, then you know that's the end of that. And obviously an internal lighting kit. The windowed side panel, which is ventilated, you could mount on the fan if you like, also has power feeding off to lights that come in this strip on the side. I've taken it off so you can actually see what's going on, and we're playing quite nicely. Frame rates in GTA 5, get to the correct page, are acceptable. So with the settings up fairly high on full HD, you're looking at an average 55 frames per second. The low point is fairly low, but then a GTA 5, it has some stumbles. It always does. No matter what your system, you're always going to get the odd moment where it misbehaves. Other benchmarks, absolutely acceptable. Figures on Kit Guru as per usual. It powers through all the benchmarks just as you'd expect, and it does what you would hope you would get from, in this case, a 6-core processor. If you think of it in terms of the processor as being better than a Core i3, and depending on which Core i5 we're talking about, not really quite, it's not as sophisticated as a Core i5, but it has 6 cores all churning away, all doing something. So in terms of driving along a game and such like, it does a reasonable job. The limitation for gaming quite clearly is the graphics. And you can see inside the system, it is tidy. I mean, there's no two ways about it. It is a tidy system. Realistically, there's not a colossal amount of hardware to put inside it. The case itself is, it's a little bit oldie-worldy in a way. I mean, it's got some sort of plastic on the front and the sides, which looks quite pleasant. Obviously, you had the LCD display, which you saw on the benchmark that's running, which shows you things like temperatures. Beyond that, it's got a few drive bays, it's got optical drive bays, and it's got enough space for your hardware. And there really isn't a colossal amount more you can say about that. It does a decent job. The styling, I would say, is one of those either you like it or you don't. To me, it's absolutely fine. I do like, however, the front-mounted ports. There are USB ports, they're always a handy thing. But other than that, it's a case. One thing I am going to say, which I ran into with the system, is that the liquid cooler as supplied is controlled by the BIOS. MSI BIOS, we like MSI BIOS, no problem whatsoever. The target fan speed smart monitor is the feature MSI has, where you can tell it what CPU temperature you want the thing to have, and then it'll adjust the fan speed as it sees fit. So if you tell it keep the processor down to 50 Celsius and the temperature hits 60, it'll crank up the fan speed, obviously. And then you can also set the minimum fan speed so it will never drop below a certain point, just to be on the safe side. When the system arrived, the thing was howling away at full speed. Smart monitor had been disabled. Which meant the fan was running at 1900 RPM, and that was loud. The noises at the back. So I can actually imagine if you're sat at the front and the thing is under a table, it wouldn't be the end of the world. It was just unnecessary. I enabled smart monitor. I told it aim for a temperature of 40 Celsius, and then when I was cranking the load on in benchmarks and such like, the temperature would actually go up to 50 and the fan speed would start to go up. But it was really quite quiet. But of course, it's not me building the system, and I'm not the one that's warranting it. I'm not having to guarantee it. I'm not having to fix it if the thing cooks itself. But I had a word with Vibox, and I think they'll be adjusting their settings. I think they'll be using Smart Monitor. I think it was just a slight mistake this arrived without. It was, however, educational, because the noise difference with the fan running at 1900 rather than when I turned the settings on 1400 was significant. It also has to be said that this processor being overclocked 95 watt TDP, it's quite toasty. When I had the system fully stressed using Ada 64, CPU stressed but no GPU, the wall socket load was 235 watts. The graphics card obviously is running, and memory is, the storage is and such like. That's a lot of juice to see. You get degrees of fluctuation at different benchmarks. But I mean, 3D Mark, it's running 350 watts. So there's no denying the AMD system is less efficient and less sophisticated than the corresponding Intel system, but you're paying less. There's no two ways about it. I did a quick look. In fact, if you try and look for really basic desktop systems on the likes of Dell these days, you'll struggle. But if you look around, you can find a really basic Core i3 tower system using Intel graphics, so no MSI AMD graphics. You'll pay about £499 for a built system, a built tower with Windows installed. So 500 quid gets you essentially next to nothing. Whack in 150 quid's worth of graphics card and you're up to 650. They've also got an SSD in this. Those systems, those £500 systems, there'll be a hard drive. So you're getting, albeit basic memory, you're getting a small SSD but with a hard drive. You're getting all the stuff you need, and the price, just under £700, is lower than it would be with a corresponding Intel system. The question is, how determined are you to save that £50 or £100? I would actually say that if you want to play games and do your usual eBay type Amazon-y sorts of stuff, and you're prepared to keep an eye on temperatures, and let's face it, Vibox has helped by giving you the LCD display, so you've got no excuse for not knowing what's going on. But if you're prepared just to keep a weather eye on what the BIOS is doing, actually, temperature is entirely acceptable. Having said that, you're always going to lose a bit of power. I mean, the thing was drawing quite a lot of juice at the wall socket, but when you calculate actually how much an extra 50 to 100 watts or whatever for a system costs you in terms of pennies, it really is, 10, 20p a day or something. I mean, it's a trivial amount of cash. Not very eco of me, but there you go. I was also actually quite impressed by the fact they've gone for the 4.4 gigahertz overclock when I'm certain this CPU will go higher than that. As I say, I've read of 5 gigahertz. I think actually on the same 1.4 volts. So you wouldn't even have to feed it a lot more juice, but if you choose to start cranking it up further, I'm certain it would go further on your head, be it. So overall, it's a cheap PC. Let's be nice, it's a value PC. It does do gaming at full HD, you can forget about 4K. It has all the essentials. When you open the stealth cover at the front, you will see you even have your optical drive. So you've got plenty of bays, you've got plenty of options. You're not actually missing out on anything, although you will be paying for that bit of extra power the thing is taking. You don't get the sophistication of Intel, but you do save some cash in the first place. The lights, I feel, are a bit intense. They are slightly less shouty when you have the side panel on, but nonetheless, they are quite bright. That's not my personal cup of tea, but there we go. Overall, it's a very competent system. It's not particularly sophisticated. It does a job. It's clearly going to save you cash. It plays games. Common sense says this is a kind of heading into Christmas, buy it for the teenager kind of thing. I think we can all agree on that. This particular system is going to be run as a giveaway on Kit Guru. I don't know what the competition question is going to be. There'll be a question. So if you refer to the Kit Guru webpage, there is going to be a competition associated with this Vibox Element X Blue. So you can, in fact, if you play your cards right, get this particular system free of charge. Which is nice, isn't it? But that, of course, means you don't get the option of green or red. So blue it is. Anyway, this is Leo Waldock for Kit Guru.